Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters Encounters video. Well, this is a bit of a treat when it comes to the world of encounters because in this case it's one user, but they have a collection of encounters from various family members. So when I was looking at this information, it's a wide gamut of different type of creatures that they encountered sometime in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll share this. I'll probably do it in 2 or 3 parts because each of these specific incidences are a good story, like they're a good length of time to describe here. And of course, I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on them as always. So for this special video, part 1, it's again from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit called Humanoid Encounters, a fan favorite of mine actually. It's from a user by the name of Snathius, and they entitled theirs as Collection of Stories from Family Members. So again, this will be part 1, and part 1 is called Birdman at Lake Choke Canyon, 1970s. So here's what they state. I grew up in San Antonio, but my father's side of the family are from the Jordanton, Pleasanton, and Christine areas, about 30 miles south of San Antonio, and my mother's side of the family are from El Paso, West Texas area. I'm not sure how I haven't joined this sub before, but I absolutely love these kind of stories. Here's a collection of stories from my family. The Birdman at Lake Choke Canyon, 1970s. My father grew up in the Pleasanton, Christine areas of Texas, which is about 20-30 miles south of San Antonio, in the Texas brush country. The Texas brush country is a huge part of South Texas. It's not necessarily desert, but kind of a medium between the oak tree, cedar tree forest of the Texas Hill Country and the almost desert landscape of northern Mexico. Miles of wide open ranch land with loads of thorn and mesquite trees, with some oak trees sprinkled in for good measure. Growing up, we'd go down and visit family members in that region, and when the sun would go down, I always felt creeped out by that area. There are some creeks that make you swear you were in Louisiana swamps, with large trees hanging over the creek beds, covered in Spanish moss, and giving the areas a very creepy vibe, especially at night. It's well known that there are now lots of wild chile piquon plants along lots of the rivers and creeks in this area because when Santa Anna's army were making their way to San Antonio before the Battle of the Alamo, the soldiers had with them chile piquon peppers to make salsa and add spiciness to their foods when they would make camp, and naturally lots of the soldiers would drop excrement along the creeks, and the seeds of the peppers would then find their way into the soil and begin sprouting those pepper plants. Anyways, one of my father's uncles claims he saw a large winged humanoid bird with glowing eyes swoop down on him and one of his buddies while out at the lake known as Choke Canyon, fishing for catfish late into the night from the bank without a boat. The story goes that it was around 11 p.m. or so on a Friday night, and let's call my father's uncle Robert and his buddy Chester. The two men had decided to go fishing for catfish and drink some beers and enjoy the start of the weekend with a nice, relaxing nighttime fishing trip to the lake, which was about 30 miles from the town that they lived. So Robert, having worked in construction and having worked the entire day, was feeling sleepy and decided to take a nap in the truck while Chester stayed on the lake bank, listening to the radio and watching their fishing rods that were casted out in the water. Uncle Robert climbs into the driver's seat of his truck and then falls asleep. An hour or so goes by and he's rudely awoken by Chester, who is screaming and pounding his fist on the passenger window of the truck, yelling like a madman for Robert to unlock the door to let him into the truck cabin. Jared and caught completely off guard, Robert unlocks the door and asks Chester, who is out of breath and panicking, what the hell is going on. Chester, clearly panicked and freaking out, says to start the truck up and for them to get the hell out of there. He said that he was chilling in his folding chair and had just caught a small catfish and had thrown it back into the water and had sat back down in his folding chair when he heard what sounded like a huge, large bird flapping its wings behind him. He stood up and turned around, and there was a bird-like humanoid, kind of like a large crane-like bird, with a human face and a beak like a mouth, with glowing red eyes and a massive wingspan, something like 12 to 15-foot wingspan. So he turns around and sees this thing flapping just behind and above him and appeared to be ready to land right where Chester was sitting. These two were born and bred South Texas country boys like my father and had grown up in the brush country hunting birds, bobcats, alligators at that same lake, fishing, and then being common rural kids. So they had a lifetime of experiences with wildlife in that region and had never seen anything like it. Robert starts up the truck, and in the rearview mirror, illuminated in the red glow of the brake lights, Robert sees that large bird creature land behind the truck and begin walking around the truck over to the passenger side. It was shaped like a man-sized crane with thin, long legs that looked like it would stand at eye level with an average height man, and it was the creepiest thing he'd ever seen. That's when Robert knew that Chester wasn't screwing around, and he throws the truck into gear and then peels out of there. They end up getting back into Robert's place, and Chester and he both decide to spend the night together, shotguns in hand, until morning, which is when they decide what to do next. They ended up going back the following day, now armed to the tooth, to retrieve their fishing poles, folding chairs, and other fishing gear, and found the footprints of whatever it was that they saw still fresh and in the sand around their fishing spot. This happened in the 70s, so it was before smartphones with cameras. When my father told me the story, I pictured something like a tall shoe bill, but there's nothing like that in that part of the state. Maybe it just wanted to eat the fish that Chester had just caught. Following the incident, they would end up eventually going back to fish in the evenings, but they would be sure to take firearms for protection. Then that's it. That's everything for part one of this collection of stories from family members. First one being called Birdman at Lake Choke Canyon. So let's talk about that here. Fascinating story, right? Instant visions of the Mothman is what I was getting here. Here you have a large winged humanoid bird, glowing eyes, reddish ones no less. It's much larger than your average man, has a huge wingspan as well, and overall has those same flapping motions that the Mothman is used as, that people know for as well. But there it was at that location, at that Choke Canyon, and there they were fishing late into the night, and it made its appearance. This user is dead on right when it comes to Texas brush country. If you haven't been to Texas in a while or never, you'll know that it's a few metropolitan cities like Austin, San Antonio, and so on. And then there's nothing. Like there's large regions, like they stated here, of just endless trees, almost like mixed with desert, mixed with rivers and creeks here and there. It's just a weird area. It's like almost otherworldly in certain parts of Texas, and it makes up most of Texas. So having that type of land for a creature like this, for this quote unquote Birdman, will be absolutely perfect, because despite Texas having like such either the second or largest population in the United States, this Birdman could easily exist out there. Nobody would ever touch it. Nobody would ever even see it unless it's by pure happen chance, like when it comes to these two folks here. But they saw it. It landed first in front of one guy, and then that guy ran the hell out of there right into that truck, pounding on the truck, trying to get the truck door open, and then that's when the other guy saw it as well. And then it looks like it was just about to go to their area, like the passengers area. How creepy is that? This thing is intelligent enough to be able to know where they're at, and instead of just attacking like a stupid animal, it decided to go straight to the passenger door area for a more specialized attack, or whatever it was going to do there. But otherwise, that was very creepy to read about. Imagine something like that, a creature coming out of like that out of nowhere, and then you're out there in the middle of nowhere. And of course, these guys came back afterward, armed to the teeth. And I don't know about them, fishing there again later on into the evenings in the future. I would have stopped at that point. You would not be able to pay me to go there no matter what. But they did. They decided to go back. It's too bad, again, this happened in the 70s. Like they said, no smartphones, no ready disposable cameras. Otherwise, that would have been a hell of a picture when it comes to this Birdman at Lake Choke Canyon. But let me know if anybody there is in that Pleasanton, Christine area in Lake Choke Canyon and knows more on a local level. I'd love to hear about it. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.